Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given orders to the churches of Galatia, so you must do also. On the first day of the week, let each one of you lay something aside, storing up as he may prosper, that there may be no collections when I come. And when I come, whomever you approve by your letters, I will send to bear your gift to Jerusalem. But if it is fitting that I go also, they will go with me. Now I will come to you when I pass through Macedonia, for I am passing through Macedonia, and it may be that I will remain or even spend winter with you, that you may send me on my journey wherever I go, for I do not wish to see you now on the way, but I hope to stay a while with you, if the Lord permits. But I will tarry in Ephesus until Pentecost, for a great and effective door has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. And if Timothy comes, see that he may be with you without fear. For he does the work of the Lord, as I also do. Therefore let no one despise him, but send him on his journey in peace, that he may come to me, for I am waiting for him with the brethren. Now concerning our brother Apollos, I strongly urged him to come to you with the brethren, but he was quite unwilling to come at this time. However, he will come when he has a convenient time. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together these verses from the last chapter of 1 Corinthians, chapter 16, verses 1 to 12. Paul has dealt with nearly all the issues. There's just one final issue to deal with, and that is the collection for the saints. This is a gift that he desires to send from Asia Minor, Macedonia and Greece, contributed to by all the churches, back to Jerusalem, because the church in Jerusalem was going through a very hard time. He was encouraging the Christians to bless the saints in Jerusalem. Paul will have much more to say about this collection when his personal plans become clearer, when he's writing the second epistle to the Corinthians. But at this time he lays down the basic principle. As I have given orders to the churches of Galatia, so you must do also. This is the pattern, the way in which the offering is to be. Point 1, on the first day of the week, let each one of you lay something aside. The first day of the week was when the believers gathered together. It was the celebration of the resurrection, and they would participate in the Lord's Supper, as well as teaching and prayers and various other things. But a key part of this was that individually each one was to lay something aside. This is at the beginning of the week, so it's not at the end of the week looking back, but the beginning of the week looking forward. Each individual is responsible for working out how much they shall give. Paul doesn't say you have to give a tenth, or a fifth, or 1%. You work it out, a proportion that you choose for yourself, out of what the Lord has prospered you, out of what you have received, allocate some to bless others. Laying something aside, there is no stipulation of how much. It is simply storing up as he may prosper. It seems as if the individual keeps the material, whatever is being collected, and stores it up. He sets it aside for the Lord. And the reason for that is that there be no collections when I come. There will be a gathering together of that which has been saved, but there will not be an appeal made when Paul turns up and say, well, we should send something to the church in Jerusalem. Let's pass the hat around now. No, this is a planned laying aside of goods for the church in Jerusalem, taking over a period of time. It's a regular pattern for them to lay aside something with which to bless the church in Jerusalem. He will then organise with letters and with a group of men approved by them, men that they trust, so that there is complete transparency. Paul is not collecting the money and just putting it into a great big organisation where he can draw the money out of again. No, he will not handle the money, although he may travel with the money if it turns out that it is time for him to go to Jerusalem also. If it is fitting that I go also, they will go with me. So he may travel with those taking the gift, but he will not handle the money himself. We are reminded in all of this that Judas Iscariot looked after the money for Jesus and the disciples, but he helped himself. And that's always a risk, particularly if you are not wealthy. If you're handling money that belongs to somebody else, you can take it a little bit for granted and be a bit fluid and a bit plastic in the way that you deal with it, which is why churches, as much as anywhere else, need to have very careful financial guidelines in place, with proper accountability with people who are endorsed by the church. Now, Paul is still in Ephesus. He would spend nearly 3 years in Ephesus. His journey to Macedonia would come sooner than he anticipated because there was a riot coming. The silversmiths were going out of business, and they blamed Paul for preaching the gospel. As he indicates here, there's a great opportunity, but there are many adversaries. And so he would need to leave, and he would head on his way first to Macedonia, Philippi, Berea, Thessalonica, and then to come down to Corinth. And when he gets there, he's hopeful that he might be able to spend some time there, to encourage them, to teach them, even spend winter with them, since travelling over winter is very difficult. He has full confidence that as they receive this message, that they will process it and respond to it. But he says, I do not wish to see you now on the way, but I hope to stay a while with you if the Lord permits. It's interesting when you compare that with verse 12, where he says, concerning Apollos, I strongly urged him to come to you with the brethren, but he was unwilling to come at this time. However, he will come when he has a convenient time. Each of us, even Paul, even Apollos, has to seek out the will of the Lord, but has their own will also to deal with. And although Paul said, Apollos, it's time for you to go and help sort out this mess that's in Corinth, with those people there following you and not acknowledging the other apostles, but Apollos was not willing to face that at that time. But we see that Paul himself was not willing to spend time with the Corinthians. He had another priority. He would spend time in Macedonia, then he would spend time with them. So there was a plan. But always, as the Lord wills, he will make a plan, but it may not actually turn out according to the plan. But he had a backup, and that was Timothy, a very trusted co-worker of Paul, would come. No doubt he would deliver the letter. Paul is hopeful that he will be well received, that he will not be intimidated or threatened, because he is doing the work of the Lord in full partnership with Paul. And he needs full respect. Even though he is a younger man, he needs to be fully respected and to be sent on his journey in peace, that he might come back to Paul, because Paul is waiting. Paul's waiting for news of how this letter is received. This is in fact his second letter, although it's called 1 Corinthians. In the first one he'd said, do not company with evildoers. But now he's clarified that to say, I mean those who profess to be believers and are evildoers. We do have to live in this world. So Paul is very anxious that the believers in Corinth will respond. His absence does not mean he does not care for them, but he does have a plan to visit them. Is it time for us to make plans or review our plans for the collection for the saints and for the service of our Lord?